If you've been anywhere near health news or social media lately, you know there's been this incredible buzz, just undeniable.
Absolutely. Around new weight loss medications like Wegovy.
It's just captured everyone's attention, hasn't it? Created this, well, massive surge in demand.
It really is more than just buzz, though. It feels like a genuine market phenomenon.
Right.
People aren't just, curious. They're actively seeking these treatments out. It's kind of fundamentally shifting how we even think about pharmaceutical demand.
It truly has. And that's exactly why today our deep dive is all about Novo Nordisk's Wegovy.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to try and peel back the layers,
Mm-hmm.
not just its, meteoric rise, but also the equally compelling and sometimes pretty surprising challenges it's faced.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
So our mission today is really to unpack the complex forces shaping Wegovy's whole journey.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking supply chain headaches, pricing battles, fierce competition.
And how Novo Nordisk has tried to respond strategically.
Exactly. And what it all means for the company's future, and maybe even, the wider pharmaceutical landscape.
And just so you know where we're coming from, our insights today are pulled from a really diverse range of sources.
Yeah.
We've looked at financial reports, major news outlets, think Wall Street Journal, Reuters, CNBC, and even sifted through relevant online discussions.
So trying to get that comprehensive view.
That's the goal, a full picture of a really high-stakes, evolving story.
Okay, so let's dive in right at the beginning. Because that initial demand for Wegovy, wow, it was something else.
It really was.
It turns out Novo Nordisk, well, they seem to significantly underestimate the sheer U.S. appetite for this drug.
Despite some internal warnings, apparently.
Right. They launched it with, really limited supply channels, and even the initial insurance coverage was patchy.
Which, looking back, really set the stage for some pretty immediate problems. Big problems.
You could say it wasn't just an underestimation. It almost revealed a kind of blind spot, didn't it?
I think so. Even for pharmaceutical giants, gauging public unmet needs, it's tricky.
It's like patient demand, maybe fueled by social media and just growing awareness, just completely outpaced the traditional forecasts.
Absolutely. And the immediate impact, widespread shortages, almost instantly.
Yeah.
Patients were facing these unexpectedly high out-of-pocket costs and prolonged stockouts for certain crucial doses, like the 1.7 milligram. That left a lot of people scrambling, unable to stick to their treatment.
So faced with that kind of unexpected supply crunch, what's been Novo's longer-term strategy? How are they trying to catch up?
Well, they've definitely been making moves. They've made substantial investments.
Okay.
Most notably, you've got the acquisition of companies like Catalent that's aimed squarely at boosting manufacturing capabilities fast.
But that's not an overnight fix, is it?
No, definitely not. Full-scale production capacity increases. They're not actually expected to be fully online until, say, 2026.
2026. Okay, so it's a multi-year effort.
Exactly. And this supply scarcity, maybe ironically, only amplified the noise around another huge hurdle.
The price.
The sheer sticker shock of Wegovy's price tag.
That's right. Here in the U.S., the list price is hovering around $1,350 a month.
Roughly, yeah.
That number alone has put Novo Nordisk under some really intense scrutiny from, well, pretty much all directions.
And what's particularly interesting is the political backlash we've seen develop.
Mm-hmm.
You have prominent U.S. political figures, senators like Bernie Sanders, even President Biden himself, publicly calling out these huge pricing differences.
Between the U.S. and other countries, you mean?
Exactly.
And those differences are, well, they're stark, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. You look at China, it's around $193 a month.
Wow.
Germany, about $137. The UK, maybe $92.
$92 versus $1,350.
Right. When you put that next to the U.S. price, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How can that massive difference even be explained?
It's a huge question. And a big part of the answer, it seems, lies in this looming threat.
The Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA.
Yeah. That legislation allows Medicare to actually negotiate drug prices, starting in 2027.
That's the P date. And Novo Nordisk has actually made a pretty strategic move here.
No.
They've grouped their semaglutide products, which includes Wegovy, obviously, into a single negotiation category.
What's the thinking there?
Well, the hope might be strength in numbers, but it could also trigger significant price cuts across the board for them.
Right. Putting real pressure on their margins, especially when you see those global price comparisons.
Exactly. It's a high-stakes game.
But just as Novo was wrestling with, supply issues and this political heat, another kind of adversary popped up.
Uh-huh. An unexpected one.
Yeah, threatening to sort of unravel their market dominance from within. We're talking about off-brand competitors.
The compounded semaglutide issue.
Right. During those early shortages, compounded versions really took off.
They filled a vacuum.
And even after the FDA exemptions mostly ended, around mid-2025, these, well, knockoffs, they just kept proliferating.
To the point where some estimates put them at maybe up to 40% of the entire obesity drug market.
40%. That is a huge bite out of potential revenue.
It's incredibly significant. And Novo Nordisk's response, it's been extremely aggressive.
How so?
As of June 2025, they'd launched over 120 lawsuits against compounding pharmacies.
Wow, 120.
Yeah. They're citing everything from IP violations, serious safety concerns,
Okay.
pointing out impurities, non-standard dosing in these compounded versions. It's basically a full frontal legal assault.
And that legal offensive has definitely had some very public consequences, hasn't it?
It has. We saw that quite public collapse of Novo's collaboration with the telehealth company Hims & Hers.
Right, I remember that.
That came after accusations that Hims & Hers was marketing unauthorized compounded versions.
And the market reaction.
Pretty severe. It led to about a 34% sell-off in Hims & Hers stock, which just shows how sensitive the market is to these kinds of legal and regulatory issues.
That's a clear signal. And speaking of competition, it's not just these off-brands causing headaches, is it?
Not at all. Eli Lilly's Zepbound that uses tirzepatide has emerged as a truly formidable challenger, a real heavyweight.
What makes it so formidable?
Well, a couple of key things. First, it boasts superior weight loss efficacy in trials roughly 15% more than Wegovy.
15% more. That's significant.
It is. And crucially, Lilly entered the U.S. market with robust supply right away.
Ah, learning from Novo's launch, perhaps.
Seems like it, and they came in with aggressive pricing strategies right out of the gate, too.
So with a major player like Zepbound stepping into the ring, what's Novo Nordisk's counterpunch been? How do you fight back against that?
Well, they've responded pretty directly on price. They actually slashed Wegovy prices by over 50% through their own online pharmacy platform.
Over 50%. That must hurt margins.
Absolutely. It's a move to try and stay competitive, retain market share. But yes, it put significant pressure on those profit margins, which were already under scrutiny.
And the competition isn't just stopping there, right? We also have to look down the road.
Exactly. The generic horizon is looming.
Patent expirations, biosimilar pathways.
They're coming. Key dates like 2031 in the U.S., but maybe as early as 2026 elsewhere.
And those dates basically open the door for generics and biosimilars to enter the market.
Which will inevitably further erode price control and just make the whole landscape even more crowded and competitive.
So when you put all these pieces together, the supply issues early on, the costly legal fights, the pricing backlash, these really aggressive competitors.
Perfect storm, really.
It seems like it. And it's had a clear, measurable impact, hasn't it? Novo Nordisk's share value took a huge hit.
A steep drop, yeah. Over 50% since mid-2024. Investors clearly got nervous, very nervous.
And that leads us to a pretty major internal shift, right? The CEO, Lars Fruergaard Jorgensen, actually stepped down.
He did. That's a very strong signal, usually, of a strategic recalibration within a company.
So what's the board focusing on now? How are they trying to regain that investor confidence?
It seems the new focus is really on pushing for increased oversight internally.
Okay.
And investing heavily in new R&D, new data. We saw some evidence of this in their presentations at recent ADA, American Diabetes Association events.
So showcasing the pipeline, the science.
Exactly. It's all about rebuilding that investor trust and demonstrating a clear path forward driven by innovation and, importantly, transparency.
Okay, so with all these complex challenges kind of swirling around them, what are Novo's broader strategic shifts as they look to maybe expand their reach but also rebuild their standing?
Well, one thing is they seem to be managing global launches with a much more, let's say, controlled approach now, learning lessons, perhaps.
How so?
For instance, you see deliberate delays in big markets like India. Wegovy isn't expected there until 2026.
Right.
And in China, when it does launch, it's coming in at that much more accessible price point we mentioned, around $193 a month.
Which is a huge difference from the U.S.
A massive difference. And it really highlights a commitment, it seems, to ensuring supply reliability before they do these widespread launches, trying to avoid those past mistakes.
Makes sense. And here in the U.S., beyond just fixing the supply chain, what other avenues are they exploring to maybe expand reach or make the drug more accessible? You mentioned partnerships.
Yeah, exactly. They're being pretty proactive about broadening access through strategic partnerships.
Like with Weight Watchers.
Like Weight Watchers, yeah. And also U.S. telehealth providers, names like Ro and LifeMD.
And what's the goal there? Just visibility.
It's partly visibility, but it's also about boosting affordability through specific pricing incentives. They're offering deals ranging from about $299 to $499 a month for patients through these channels.
That's interesting, but I wonder, do those partnerships really change the fundamental affordability issue for the average person? Or is it more about creating new pathways, getting the drug into more hands, even if the list price technically stays high?
That's a really good question. It's probably a bit of both, right?
Yeah.
They don't drastically slash that headline list price for everyone, but they do expand the ways patients might be able to access the drug at a more manageable cost.
Okay.
Maybe by helping navigate insurance or offering these direct-to-consumer options, so it's like widening the funnel.
Right. So if we try to connect all these threads, looking forward, the challenges and Novo's responses, they're just incredibly multifaceted, aren't they?
Absolutely. They have to stabilize supply. That's job one. Those capacity gains from acquisitions like Catalent, expected by 2026, are crucial.
And pricing.
Pricing faces this continuous tightening pressure, especially with Medicare negotiations coming and that ongoing U.S. political focus potentially shrinking U.S. revenue.
Then there's the whole off-brand issue.
Combating those illicit competitors is critical. Success in their legal cases and, physician awareness campaigns, that'll be key to protecting their market share.
And fending off Lilly.
And future generics, yeah. That comes down to ongoing trials, maybe expanding the drugs label, for example, for cardiovascular or renal benefits, plus very, very strategic pricing.
And underlying it all.
The crucial task of rebuilding investor credibility. That means new leadership delivering, clear data roadmaps, and really transparent strategic planning to reassure the market they have a handle on things.
It's just incredible how many different fronts they're fighting on simultaneously. When you piece it all together like that, what's the single biggest takeaway for you from this whole saga so far?
For me, I think it's just the sheer volatility and complexity of the modern pharmaceutical market, especially when you have a drug this transformative, this in demand.
Yeah.
It really makes you think. Given the intense demand we've seen, the constant pricing pressures, the regulatory scrutiny, and just this fierce competition, what does the whole Wegovy story really tell us maybe about the future?
The future of drug development itself.
Yeah, and accessibility and even the profit models. What does this mean for the global pharmaceutical industry going forward? It leaves you with a lot to ponder.